Before sunrise, a young runner steps into Oregon fog, wondering why starting always hurts the most. He has degrees and a military year behind him, yet he still feels unfinished and restless. That restlessness turns into a specific hypothesis. Japanese running shoes can underprice entrenched European giants. The idea starts as a Stanford paper, then becomes a plan to visit factories and ask for a partnership. The deeper driver is the desire for work to feel like play, where effort and purpose stay fused together. A guiding rule forms during that run: quitting is the only sure way to lose. To act on it, he asks his father for travel money and quietly adds a stop in Japan. In a Kobe conference room, he blurts out a company name and promises a small money order for samples. Next, we will unpack the negotiation style, the cash traps of growth, the design breakthroughs, and the survival moves. This video is inspired by Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Subscribe for more founder stories built from hard lessons. A calling begins when a vague desire is transformed into a specific, testable idea that can be pursued daily. The process is repetition, as runs, drafts, and pitches accumulate into clarity, even when confidence is lacking. When effort has a clear direction, setbacks feel like valuable data rather than a verdict on one's worth. This mindset keeps motion alive, which is crucial because the alternative is returning to safe routines and unresolved doubt. During an early run, he frames life as a game and decides he must participate rather than sit out. He tells himself to keep going and not stop, even without a clear picture of the finish line. This concept explains why a small paper about shoes can become the organizing project that reshapes an entire life. Instead of waiting for permission or certainty, this approach treats action as the only reliable way to discover meaning. Write one sentence that names the problem you cannot ignore, then identify the smallest next action to test it. Repeat that action until the idea either earns stronger commitment or clearly shows it should be replaced. Cross-border deals often fail because each side interprets the same polite words differently. The mechanism is indirect communication, where refusal is implied through pauses, circles, and careful ambiguity. If you push too hard, trust collapses, and the other side protects itself by delaying, stalling, or switching partners. Interpreting every pause as a rejection can lead you to leave early and miss agreements that were still forming. Two Americans in Tokyo warn that the worst move is acting like a loud, hard-sell negotiator who won't hear no. In Kobe, executives listen, step out, then return with samples and questions that turn a pitch into a joint plan. This approach aligns with the broader goal of building something durable, not winning one conversation through pressure. A partnership becomes possible when both sides can leave the room with dignity and still keep talking tomorrow. When stakes are high, ask what the other side needs to protect, then design a proposal that meets their needs. Follow up with concrete next steps like sample requests and timelines to create momentum without forcing agreement. Fast sales growth can be perilous when each new shipment requires payment before the previous one is fully sold. The gap between inventory cost and incoming cash transforms success into constant borrowing. Banks assess risk based on cash balances, so they may view rising orders as a threat rather than progress. This mismatch forces founders to spend energy on credit lines and letters of credit instead of focusing on customers. One banker calls growth too rapid for equity, even as the business tries to prove itself to suppliers. Later, the bank refuses more letters of credit and threatens to terminate the relationship after the last bills. The solution is to seek financing that understands trade cycles, including Japanese trading companies that thrive on credit. Even then, the founder must manage trust on all sides, as suppliers and financiers watch each other closely. Track the timing of orders, payments, and receipts on one page, then negotiate credit as a survival tool, not a luxury. If these survival mechanics help you understand growth more clearly, subscribe for more lessons on building under pressure. In crowded markets, the easiest way to lose is by copying the leader, so differentiation must be engineered. The process involves obsessive iteration, where coaches and customers treat discomfort and failures as design input. When a shoe solves real problems, word of mouth spreads, and the brand becomes associated with performance rather than hype. Innovation also creates bargaining power, as suppliers and retailers take you more seriously when you offer something unique. A coach stares at a waffle iron pattern, ruins one tool, then keeps experimenting until a grippy sole appears. At the same time, a small team searches for a short brand name, and a dream suggestion becomes Nike. Design choices and naming choices reinforce each other, as a new sole needs a new identity to travel with it. A simple mark that suggests motion gives the shoes a recognizable presence, even before people learn the story behind them. Collect feedback from real users, translate it into sketches, and test prototypes quickly so learning stays concrete. Then pick one distinctive element to repeat everywhere, on boxes, brochures, and the side of every shoe. A company can appear stable until a supplier relationship breaks, at which point the entire operating plan can evaporate overnight. Dependency is the mechanism, as one contract can control inventory, timelines, and retailers' credibility. When the supplier cancels, cash strains increase, legal threats appear, and employees feel the ground shift beneath them. At that point, speed matters, as the first lawsuit can determine where the fight will be judged. An executive delivers a letter declaring the contract null and void, demanding payment for delivered shoes. The team gathers, hears they are set adrift, and commits to making their own line while preparing to sue. That crisis forces clarity about priorities, including control of design, supply, and honest communication within the company. It also tests loyalty, as partners who once smiled can become opponents when the stakes become existential. To reduce single supplier risk early, qualify alternatives, and keep documentation organised so disputes can be fought quickly. When conflict arrives, tell the team the facts, assign next steps, and keep shipments moving any legal way available. The deepest lesson is that the goal is not just shoes, but creating a place where obsession and craft can endure. That requires embracing constant uncertainty and treating each crisis as part of the game you chose to play. You witnessed how a single idea transforms into a supplier partnership, and how humility and patience keep negotiations alive. You also saw how growth without credit can create a cash cycle, which can force painful decisions about control. When innovation and brand identity take root, the company gains leverage with athletes, retailers, and factories. When the team remains united during supplier breakups and lawsuits, resilience becomes a competitive advantage that rivals cannot copy. When building anything, map your dependencies and cash timing, as both can quickly end a dream. Then build one small buffer, whether it's a backup supplier or an alternative bank conversation, before you need it. Most importantly, keep going when doubt gets loud, because the finish line is defined by those who refuse to stop. If you want more stories about building with endurance and judgment, subscribe and keep your own long run alive.